Beck, who's just joined us, and Alison Maunder and Amber Baines and Therese Zammit, who are all on at the moment. They are part of our Stage 2 team this year. We're so fortunate to have the setup that we have this year to work with your children, because we have 44 children in our stage, and every learning session of each day we have 3 teachers and 2 student learning support officers, or what you might have referred to as previously as teacher aides. Which means the way that we operate at different parts of the day means that we can really target the needs of the kids and use differentiation in quite a dynamic way to make sure we can support all the students. And we can change our grouping size, whether they're in year 3 or year 4. They may be working in a small group of 4 or 5. They could be working in a small group of 10, and the other 2 groups of sort of 17, 18 kids. They could be in all even groups, but we've got a wonderful learning space. It is a bit different when you get to come in on site. You'll see we've done some structural changes that have made the space work even better. And in the mornings, Rebecca Southern, Michael Lacasio and myself are in there every morning, and we essentially do religious education and mathematics. On Fridays, we do our sport in the morning as well. And we operate in that space using 3 learning groups, and those learning groups are different for religion as they are for mathematics. And the learning groups are designed to support the needs of the kids, and that is looking at academic, social and emotional needs, as well as sensory needs, and looking at the best way we can use the support of staff in the space. On a Wednesday, Mrs. Baines actually works in that space to cover myself and Alison Maunder, who are out of class on a Wednesday. So she works with the children on a Wednesday morning, where they look at health as a part of the PDHPE syllabus, and they look at mathematics as well in the morning. The middle part of our day, you'll find Alison Maunder will go into that space, and she works in there during the literacy block, and being a literacy specialist, that is the perfect space for her to be in that room at that time. And on Wednesday, Mrs. Baines, who's also a literacy specialist with her training in reading recovery and L2 training, she works in there as well during that literacy block. In the afternoons, it sort of changes a little bit as far as the curriculum goes, but the staffing stays the same, with Mrs. Maunder and Mr. Lacasio in there, or Mrs. Baines, and that's when we do our learning around science or geography and history. Mrs. Baines again is in there all day on a Wednesday. In the afternoons, and this will start next week, Mrs. Southern, who is our EMU specialist, and EMU is around understanding mathematics for children in the middle years, so year 3 or 4, or early years, year 1 and 2. She comes out in the afternoon, and in that space is just the 2 classroom teachers at that time and the 2 student learning support officers. So our SLSOs are Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Zammit. And I think I did see them sign in. If you're not sure where they are, Mrs. Lee was just waving somewhere on the screen. And Mrs. Zammit is now. So they are in that space every day. Mrs. Zammit shares the week with Mr. Zoffel, who's in there Monday and Tuesdays. And they work with a variety of students. There are some students that have specific support needs that they do spend more of their day with. But the idea is that they're able to use them flexibly at different points in the day to work with different students. But again, with having 3 teachers full-time in that classroom, we're able to address all the learning and social, emotional and sensory needs across the day, being only 44 students across the stage. And our new learning space really now has 3 defined areas, so we can use that space far more flexibly and have auditory barriers at different in different areas. So our learning for the start of the year has been awesome. We're really happy with how the years start. We're really happy with how our team is working and how the children are working and the learning that's happening and even the growth that's happening socially and emotionally with some of our kids. And we're looking forward to a really positive year. So I think the only general thing that may come up, which does often come up at the start of the year, is the question around home learning or homework. Just to address that one for everyone in case there's questions about it. Home learning will take place, but it is not taking place for the sake of having homework. Homework will occur every day through reading, and we also are going to try and introduce some work around multiplication of times tables. Mr. Lacasio is looking into an app, although based on his performance setting up this meeting, we may have worries. So he's looking into an app actually that we're going to use for times tables. But every day we would really like the children to be reading and practicing their times tables facts, as that's an area of need. Outside of that, homework will occur when students need to complete work that needs to be finished on that day to ensure they can work on things the following day, or when they need to do extra work to prepare for something that is coming up either the next day or maybe the week ahead. That could be actually doing written work, it may be collecting resources, it could be a variety of things. Homework as a principle of helping students grow as learners has a very, very low effect size. As far as homework being a battle for a lot of families, it actually has more of a negative impact on kids learning than a positive impact. The best thing about homework, though, is introducing good habits. So we want good habits around reading consistently. We want good habits around being good, autonomous, knowing their multiplication facts. And we want good habits around them being able to manage their time effectively to prepare for things just like you and I would in the real world to prepare for things that we need to do for work. For kids, we want them to build good habits around building in time to prepare for things as they get older, around assessments and studying for exams and those sorts of things. But doing homework for the sake of doing homework, for me, is not a battle worth having. But we need to be giving students good habits around their reading and around their preparation and time management. So there will be at times where that will occur. So the opportunity now is over to you to have any clarifying questions, if you've got anything that you like that you've heard, and if you've got any wonderings that you've got around our year. Hopefully, really hopefully, once things relax a bit, I would like to be able to open opportunities for people to be able to visit the classroom at different times each week, to come in during our religion and our maths times in the morning. But more than likely, that's probably something that's going to happen in term 2, maybe term 3, but fingers crossed you can get that opportunity, because then you know, having that strong connection with your child's learning space just helps with the conversations you can have about their learning as well. So feel free, if you've got a question, you do have an option to raise your hand through the participants bar down the bottom, and then I can unmute people as they raise their hand, and you can offer any likes or wonderings or clarifying questions you've got about the year. And then if you need to jump out and go into another Zoom session, then you're more than welcome to do that. All right, so it's over to you. Unless teachers, I've missed something.
Mr. Ticehurst, I was only going to add around the home learning, the parents, the year 4 parents are probably familiar with this, but for the students in year 3, it's a bit of a adjustment, often going from year 2 to year 3 in terms of the demands of the learning and everything else. But all of the children in stage 2 have a reading day. So they either read with Mr. Lacasio, Mrs. Baines, Mrs. Southern, or myself. So they've got a reading day. And once we get you know, they get more familiar with it, they should be able to tell you what that reading day is. Year 3 are working a little bit differently at the moment because they're working mostly on short texts, but later in the year, they'll have a reading target that they need to read up to, and they've often got a response that they need to do. So in terms of homework, it's quite useful to know what your child's reading day is, because there'll be something that they're expected to do by that day. And I've got 2 groups that are working with me at the moment, and we're already doing that. So if I can see see a couple of the parents of the kids that I'm working with for reading, just knowing the reading day and is there anything that you need to do, because the demand does get, it's increased a little bit more as they get older, and certainly for stage 3, that's a good habit to get into as well. And that's it.
All right, well, let us know if you've got any questions.
More so just so you guys aren't sitting there not talking to anybody.
Make it a hard one.
I'm really happy with how you've explained everything. I think you've done really well in terms of us not being able to come in and knowing how the classroom's running. I read about the new music program I think it was in the newsletter, and Marley's come home choosing her string instruments and whatnot. Are we going to I'm really interested in what they're doing there. I think it sounds really exciting and the kids are really excited about it. Are we going to be kept in the loop in terms of how that's all going? Because I'd love a bit more info on that.
Yeah, certainly. It's very new for us as well. And one of the parts of the program is that the teachers will actually be learning alongside the students, learning instruments as well. So we're all going to be experiencing some sort of pain, whether it's through sound or through our fingers. But yeah, we will definitely keep you in the loop, because we want to share as much information as possible about it with the whole community, because it's so new. And the purpose of the program is, despite the benefits of kids learning musical instruments, it provides a little bit more of a structured, supportive way for kids to develop an interest in one of these sorts of strings instruments, and that could lead to another instrument down the track. They could then do the tutoring that's offered in stage 3, where they do this supported tutoring, and it's through the same people, the Captivate team from CDP. So yeah, I'm glad you're reading into that as something that's awesome, because I think it will be a fantastic thing for the kids. And I should have mentioned on a Wednesday, that's when that's going to occur. We did notice when the teachers collected what musical instruments the kids want to play. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of cello and no violin. As far as instrument numbers, obviously they'll have to balance that out. So I'm not quite sure how they'll work the kids through experiencing violins, violas, cellos, or the double bass. But I'm assuming there'll be an opportunity where they try and give everyone a bit of an experience on each before they commit to something as well. But yeah, thanks for that question. We'll definitely get as much out there as possible. And you know what? The best thing will be you could come in and watch a session at some point. So
that'd be great
as well.
Thanks, Ben.